Outstanding and world-class vision and world-class this.
I'm a real leadership geek, honestly. I've spent my whole career reading books and chatting to people.
I just find the whole thing and the announcement, the way it's been announced, bizarre.
If you could move away from a model where teachers are so intensely focused.
Good morning and welcome to the Weekly Review. I'm your host, Paul Hazard, and with me on the esteemed panel this morning is Leanne Lex and Brent Poland. You're very welcome, both of you. I should say panel regular Lucy did turn up for work this morning, but she wasn't wearing regulation socks and been sent home. So that's a shopping trip for Lucy this afternoon, but we do hope she gets well soon. Now, just before we begin the show this morning, let me tell you about a TTR appeal that we are running. In a highly worthy cause, TTR is supporting former MPs who were teachers, but are now unseated, unemployed, and unemployable. Forced to make a spectacle of themselves on the media circuit, begging for jobs, and not even getting an interview. We would like you to dig deep into your pockets and pull out your tiny violins, just like Brent is doing now, and in the style of how we were treated when they were MPs, please play them a tune. My name is Yosser Hughes, and on behalf of the appeal, I'm saying, give us a job. I could do that. Give us a job. Anyway, after a few words from our sponsors, we will be back with some very serious stories.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. John Catt have an exceptional collection of book titles that cover a range of educational topics, ideas and research. The books are aimed at forward-thinking schools and support best practice teaching for both primary and secondary education. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order.
Introducing Reading Solutions UK, home to Dreambox Reading Plus, the online reading development programme improving outcomes for students and schools nationwide. Create stronger readers in your school from Key Stage 2 to beyond GCSE using Reading Plus's evidence-based adaptive technology. Reading Plus accurately assesses your students' skills gaps and places them on a personalised learning pathway, built to accelerate their strengths and improve on their areas for development. You can try the programme with a free 4-week pilot today. Search Reading Solutions UK to find their website and request your free pilot today.
Welcome back, everybody. Now, a story that caught my eye this week is that most primary teachers would not consider secondary teaching. Now, in the UK, when you have qualified teacher status, you are allowed to teach in primary and post-primary. That's not an issue. But the DFE did a survey recently. We'll maybe look in a minute at why they did that, their motivation for doing it. But Leanne, you're a primary school teacher. Would you teach in a secondary school?
No. I've done year 6 twice. I feel like I've got to the top of my remit. I know the article mentioned work-life balance, and I have thought, oh, maybe high school teachers get a bit more free time out of class because they're not teaching the whole day. Sorry, high school teachers, if that's wrong and you're listening, I apologise. I feel like last year the PE teachers last week came after John. The secondary teachers are going to come after me this week. But yeah, I quite enjoy doing a range of subjects as well. That's kind of part of it for me. I like the variety of teaching a mixture of different subjects. I'm not sure I would want to do a speciality or just do one subject. I do think there should be better links between primary and secondary, especially if you are the year 6 teacher. I think we're lacking that a lot in education. We're not good at transitions. Early years to year 1, year 6 to year 7. I don't think we do transitions very well. So there's something missing there. Maybe there's a role missing. But as I speak for a primary school teacher, I don't think I would move into secondary. No, and I like building relationships with the kids and knowing a lot of their ins and outs. Like, I worry that you lose that in secondary.
They are different, aren't they? You know, I mean, a teacher is not a teacher is not a teacher. And I mean, the children in front of you make it different. What we need to get done with children makes it different. Yeah. Well, Brent, could you switch to primary school easily?
Yes and no. I mean, I think teachers have a natural pitch, I think every teacher can teach in different settings because we're quite adaptable individuals, especially if you're teaching long enough. And in secondary, I have done so many jobs in secondary in so many subjects. I think you've got the two types of teachers, those that are willing to adapt and those in secondary who are like, I'm a physics teacher and that's all I'll ever want to teach. And I think some subjects do lend themselves. Being humanities, for instance, I try my hand at all the social sciences, even sciences, as the school has demanded it, and even PE. I'm looking through the list of subjects I've led or taught, and I think I'm about 8 now, including computers, RE, history, geography, PHSE, citizenship, physics, and English. And I'm now currently doing reading. So it's one of the things I would like about primary school is exactly what Leanna's saying, is that I like the idea in primary school of having children, the same children, and teaching them multiple subjects, which I do get the odd time in secondary when I have kids for both geography and history. I actually think the way they teach in primary school is better that way. I think one of the weaknesses of secondary school is the compartmentalization and the episodic learning that we have. And I think primary school is definitely a better model. And I think it's difficult in primary school in some aspects because you have to be in every man and every person, every woman. You've got to be everything for those kids. And that's quite intense. However, what comes with secondary is the different set of behavior management, the marking, the more academic rigor. So I think there's a definite difference between the two. But your point, Leanne, I think is a very brilliant point about, I think we could learn a lot from primary school teachers as secondary school teachers, and I think vice versa. And I think one of the things I've always thought it should kind of happen as well is I think we need to think of the gender imbalance between primary and secondary as well. I think some male teachers need to cascade down. Some year 7, year 8 male teachers need to cascade down to year 5, year 6 possibly, because I think there is a definite sort of need for a gender balance in the teaching. When you look at the majority of teachers in primary school tend to be female, and it's 50-50, I think, nearly in secondary school. So there is something in that as well. Why are more primary school teachers female and more male teachers in secondary school? I've never understood that. Is that a natural thing or is that a choice? I just don't get that. And I think that doesn't help the students sometimes, because I do get some young boys come to me year 7, year 8, and they're happy to be taught by a male teacher for the first time. And I don't know if that's because me personally, or they just sort of identify that that's the role model thing. I think we need more diversity in our teaching stock. We need more teachers full stop, but I think we need more diversity, and I think more ethnic minorities. I think more people from diverse backgrounds. I think teaching needs just a greater variety, which matches the variety of the children we're teaching, I think.
Yeah. Well, just on that, you know, and the shortage of teachers, Lucy and I did a program on Wednesday night about media literacy, and we learned a lot from that. And one of the things I am is immediately suspicious of that headline. Most primary teachers would not consider secondary. And you wonder, why has that been written? What's the research behind it? Now, it turns out the article comes from a piece of DFE research. And when you read, you go and you source the whole article, you find out that recruitment targets for primary teachers will be 12% under. There'll be a shortfall of 12%. But for secondary, they will fail by a whopping 40%. So clearly the government needs to take the bad look off all those figures. And I am wondering, are we just seeing a survey that's really about testing the waters for kind of moving a lot of primary school teachers up into secondary to take that 40% shortfall down a bit?
I don't think it's about moving primary to secondary. I think secondary, as Brent said, is a different ballgame, because one of my concerns would be that I would be dropped into like an A-level physics lesson and not have a clue what to do. So you're recruiting different people, I think, for secondary. You need special skill sets to teach those subjects, whereas primary it's a different recruitment game, I think.
Yeah, I can see that very definitely. Yeah. But we're thrown in it quite often too, Brent, aren't we? I mean, I have taught every single subject apart from maths. I mean, that's over a 40-year career, but every single home economics, PE, music, you name it, all three sciences, everything except maths. We do get landed with, strange subjects on our timetables, don't we?
Yeah, we do. And the thing is, I suppose the thing we do is we adapt, and teachers do that. I mean, you look at a lot of secondary school teachers. I mean, I'm a history head of department, but I'm actually a geography specialist. But over 20 years I've taught history, so I'm as much a history specialist now as anything. And that's what happens with a lot of teachers. You look at most maths teachers, they've gone around different subjects. Even look at the degree background of a lot of specialist teachers in school. They're not always in the same subject that they qualified in. You get our head teacher is actually German qualified, and he's an RE teacher. It happens so much that I think teachers themselves have to adapt. But the key thing is about choice. It's about the same as the children. It's about intrinsic motivation. You gotta want to teach in a secondary school. You gotta want to say, I want to teach those subjects. And that's different to saying, I have to do this. And I think it's the same with the children, about advocacy, about if you're saying, if somebody's chosen to teach in a primary school and then it's been encouraged to go to a secondary school, they've chosen to teach in a primary school because they have a natural instinct towards it. Just the same as I have a natural instinct towards GCSE and older children. I just find it easier to me. It's more natural for me because my academic rigor is, kids often say that, even to the point where, sir, you should be lecturing the way my style is. Sometimes I've often said to me, I should be at university. And maybe I'm doing myself a disservice. I should have gone into A-level or lecturing by now. I think every teacher has a natural kind of range. Some have a broader range, some have a narrower range. And I think they find that where that range is by, as you say, trial and error. And even sometimes they find their subjects by trial and error. Like I've ended up as a head of history, I absolutely love it. So you have to be able to do that, but equally, you shouldn't be forced to do that. And you should be pushed to do that. That should be something that you yourself have a choice about.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I mean, it's a good question. Why would somebody want to move? I mean, and I find myself asking that the whole way through that article. Anyway, that's all we have time on that news item for this week. On to our next item. So, in an interesting article, Italy is to fail badly behaved pupils. They may have to repeat years. They may have to take a civic examination. Their parents may be fined. This is all in an attempt to bring back respect, as they call it, as Italy is to reintroduce a law similar to that brought in by Mussolini 100 years ago. Now, the measures include things like fines, and the fines run from 500 euros to 10,000 euros, and that's for things like assault on teachers. There may be a requirement for badly behaved pupils to take a civic exam at the end of the year, or they may even be required to repeat the year. Now, the ANP, which is Italy's Association of Head Teachers, they have embraced this move. And just before, before we come to analysing this, aggressive incidents towards staff in Italy are up 110% this year compared to last year, with many staff needing medical treatment after assaults from pupils and parents in particular. There is a sense when you read this article of a government and an education authority that has lost control of the corridors, but these measures, they still seem very draconian and very out of date, don't they, Leanne?
Yes, I think there's two parts to the story, that giving schools the power to fail students, and then also giving schools the power to fine parents. This doesn't get to the root of the behaviour, and I think in order to manage difficult, challenging behaviour, you have to get to the root of it. You have to know where it comes from and why it is there, and then you solve the behaviour, and you allow children to function well in their classroom. I think fining parents, who is it going to affect? The parents, not really the kids. And then also holding kids back a year, it's not going to change the behaviour, it's just going to move the behaviour issue on to the next teacher. So it does seem very archaic, and it seems it's not moving forward. It doesn't make change to the behaviour, and it doesn't help the child.
Yeah, I think those are very much my thoughts as well. Yeah. I also wonder, what are you teaching children? If you're going to meet aggression with aggression, surely it's just making things much worse.
Yeah. No, go on, sorry.
And I think, as you say, as those children get older, they get bigger, they're going to act out a lot more. It's just going to hold a lot of resentment for schools, for teachers, for government, and so on. Yeah.
Because it restores the authoritativeness of teachers. Teachers have always had a sense of authority. I think if you're standing in front of a class of however many, you do have a sense of authority. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to do the job. So I don't think that authority has left teachers. I think we've been left with children who can't manage their emotions, can't manage their feelings. And a fine does the complete opposite, because as we see in England, the wait lists for CAMHS and the wait lists for therapies is enormous. So if you're really, really desperate, you would possibly go private. But if you're spending 10,000 euros on a fine, where does that leave you in terms of like a monetary solution for your child? So I understand where it comes from. I'm just not sure it's the right way forward, rather put that money into helping the child.
Yeah. You'd also have to wonder who can afford 10,000 euros or even 450 euros, the minimum fine. I mean, who could actually afford that? Yeah. Now, having said that, you and I are agreeing that it's probably not a good measure, but there is a lot of support for this measure. And when you read social media, you do see that people think this is a fabulous idea. It's fantastic.
Do those people...
Go ahead, Leanne.
You wonder, the ones that commented, are they teachers or are they observers of the teaching profession? I wonder.
Yes, I think they're unlikely to be on the inside of teaching. Yes, yeah. But is it something that a UK government might consider? I know you had technical issues there, Brent. Welcome back. Good to have you back. Yeah. We're just saying we don't really agree with Italy's policy of fines. Go ahead, Brent. Oh, he's gone again. Oh, dear. Leanne, do you think some people might believe this is a good idea for the UK to do?
I think the UK broader public would possibly blame teachers first.
Good point. Yeah, good point.
I don't think they would implement that in the UK. No. It's not the government seem to make changes that they can then put on to teachers. This is a change that puts on parents. So I don't know what you think, Paul, but I feel like our government, Labour or Conservative, a lot of the changes they made put upon teachers.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think you're absolutely right. Behavior does begin in the home. And I think responsibility does need to go on parents. They do need to take responsibility for how their children are behaving in schools. Yeah. There's JBL.
I agree with him.
One of our very regular listeners who actually featured as a guest on the show this week. And I think if we can get Brent back, I think Brent's hoping to review that show. As soon as you hear the name Mussolini, you know it's a bad idea. Sledgehammer and nuts come to mind. And I think he's absolutely right, of course. But having said that, there are, behavior issues clearly in Italy. We know they're in France. We know they're in Germany. We know they're in Ireland. They are in the UK as well. How do we get respect from young people? Or how do we teach them? How do they acquire respect?
I think you need home school links, home parent, school parent links, strong links, trusting links. I think we've spoken about it before. I think you need a lot of help from outside sources and outside specialists, because behaviour has changed since we were in school as pupils, and teachers, whether secondary or high school, are not able to do everything. We want to do everything in our power, but we are not always able, and we don't always have the skill sets of, say, a psychologist. You also very rarely get the time in class to stand back and just kind of observe. You do, you get psychologists come in, or speech and language, and they come in and they just observe. And you don't always have the chance to do that as a teacher. And you may see things, and you may find fixes if you are able to do that. But we're always very time poor in teaching. So
definitely, yeah.
I think it's a multifaceted approach rather than this one facet approach that Italy are taking.
And a more supportive and a more pastoral, a more personal, and a more supportive approach, I think, works better. It certainly works better for the law. It's about investing in young people, because I suspect the young people in Italy who will be on the receiving end of, civic exams, having to repeat years, and fines from parents and so on, I suspect their behaviours will worsen over time rather than improve. Welcome back, Brent.
Sorry, I'm having a few gremlins this morning using multiple devices. Can you hear me okay?
Brent, we'll send you a phone, don't worry.
Loud and clear now.
I can hear you. So I'm going to throw the spanner in the works. There's part of me actually sees some of the logic in this. And one of my former colleagues was Hungarian. And one of the things they couldn't understand is why our kids just pass through the year? Where's the consequences? They just go through the next year when they're not ready. So there is some merit to it, and some merit in the sense that some of our children, you look at the brain development. If a child is the youngest boy in year 7 versus the oldest girl in year 7, they're nearly 2 years in brain development apart, and yet they're given the same exams. And I know with my older brother, it's anecdotal, but I know my older brother, who's one of the youngest in the year. He repeated his GCSEs, and that extra sort of year really set him up. He did very well. So it can be, for some, a year where they get caught up, a genuine year they get caught up, because the way that we cut off the children's birth dates does discriminate and disadvantage, especially boys of a certain age. So if it's done properly, not just done as a kind of punishment thing, it can be done as a Piaget maturation thing, where just some children are not ready at the same time. But you would only do that when you start looking at our exam system as well. But punitively punishing kids like that is wrong. But maybe looking at how we, develop children along terminal lines where we say that's the cutoff point. I think there is some merit in children repeating or of having an extra year, which could be beneficial for them to help them get caught up. So I think it's just how you would then do that, as opposed to, if you don't behave yourself, we're going to hold you back. If it's done like that, wrong. But if it's done as your child's just not ready to move up to the year, that might be a better way of doing that.
Yes, the one thing that I did that made a huge difference was to put discipline before curriculum. Absolutely, JBL. I wouldn't teach. Oh, I missed that, Leanne. Whip that away really quickly. I wouldn't teach over poor behavior. Absolutely right. That's all we have time for on that story this morning. We'll be right back. Now, another headline that caught my attention this week, possibly another clickbait headline. Gosh, I'm a sucker for that, aren't I? Do we actually need teaching and learning policies? Now, former Ofsted inspector Mark Enzer is back in school and having to read and write a lot of policies. He acknowledges that we do need some policies around safeguarding and so forth. But he raises a question over teaching and learning policies. Brent, what is the purpose of teaching and learning policies? And do we need a lot of them? Like, I mean, can they be conflicting and cause problems in a school?
I think I'm in education long enough to see the fads that come round and the snake oil salesmen who are earning a fortune selling those fads in education. And some of them you go, what you do is you go, right, that's a good idea. That's not a good idea. That's a good idea. That does work. That doesn't work. And I think over the years we've had policies like when I was teacher training, I used to have VAK and, brain gym and cleaneries. And I just thought to myself, does Socrates have any of this nonsense to deal with? That the essence of a pure teacher, when our Lord Jesus was standing on the Sermon on the Mount, did he have a lesson plan? Today's objective is, I'm going to turn these loaves into fishes. Oh, for God's sake, the best teachers in the world don't need to be told and regulated and basically bureaucratized. So it's another example of the bureaucracy expanding to meet the needs of the ever-expanding bureaucracy. And yet we are now being curtailed, being hemmed in. Some trusts are basically saying you must follow this policy. I mean, I saw one this morning, it was really scary. And this is the red line for me. Scripted lessons. I'm sorry, not a chance. Give us autonomy, give us freedom. We're teachers, we love our freedom. We love our autonomy. You need some standardization and some consistency, I agree. But too much and you stifle creativity, too little and you've got, people being a bit reckless. But we are at the stage where it's far too much at the moment.
Yeah. Leanne, I see you nodding in agreement there.
Yeah, I also think if they want us to have authority, they need to give us autonomy as well. You can tweet that. I just think they're turning teachers into robots, which maybe is a bit scary. I know we had an article a couple of weeks ago about children being taught by AI programming.
We did. Yeah, we did. Yeah.
I think there is a place for that somewhat, but to have schemes for everything and PowerPoint structures for everything and scripts for everything, it takes, as Brent said, it takes away the autonomy of a teacher. And the whole point, when I trained anyway, 10, 11 years ago, was to teach to the individual child. That is difficult. You can't teach a million lessons at once, but you can question differently to different children. You can't do that if you're following a script. So I do worry. And then we send out trainee teachers who can't plan lessons possibly because they're so used to a PowerPoint or a script or a scheme. So yeah,
I know we had a long conversation about that before the show began, but yes, I do think it seems convenient, it seems easy, it seems handy, but it really, in the longer term, it's disempowering. It destroys teachers' creativity, and it means you're teaching to a plan, not to the children in front of you. And I think that can only weaken what needs to happen in those classrooms, which is, a psychological contact, information exchange, values, attitudes, knowledge, all sorts of things. Yeah. Well, oddly enough, technical difficulties and all the rest, we've run over time this morning. So after this, we move on to our shows for the week. Brent, has anything caught your eye or ear this week?
Oh, yes. I'm here. I think my body's just mirroring what's going on with the technology because I'm thinking I'm a bit broken. You can hear it in my voice. I think we're so symbiotically linked. What caught my eye this morning, I started listening this morning. I hadn't made the connection until you made the connection that it's actually one of our long-time listeners, JBL, and he was with Chris Wilkinson. It was a fantastic show comparing the UK systems with the US systems. And I suppose one of the big takes that I took from it was the way the UK system's all about teaching to the test. It's very connected to our last story. The idea of autonomy, that America is a lot more free in their curriculum to teach more organically and more of the life lessons, whereas the UK system's the rigidity. So he's had such a great experience of both systems, lived in both countries, and that makes for a fascinating sort of listen of sort of the comparisons between the.
Oh, we'll have to leave Brent there. He's having a lot of trouble this morning. But just while we're talking about Brent, I listened to Education Tonight with Adam and Brent, and they looked at the curriculum review and what we want from it. But what was really interesting was part 2, in which they explored the world of the TA, the teaching assistant, or as we still call them in Northern Ireland, the classroom assistant. Now, often overlooked and yet vital and invaluable to schools, teachers, subjects, and of course, pupils and parents. They explored TA's working conditions, the remuneration packages, and the fact that there is a huge shortage of TAs. And I think a lot of school leaderships would do well to listen to Education Tonight from last Thursday. Leanne, what about you? What have you been listening to?
So mine was Jamie Clark's yesterday. The Saturday lunchtime show was about and SEND people, and there was a lot of great tips and a lot of discussion where I thought, great, okay, I do that, or great, I understand that and I agree with that. So I think if you're struggling a bit with writing SEND children, or it could be any children, it's a great show to listen to.
Great.
Sorry.
Welcome back.
My
This has been
talk radio. Everything that has gone wrong is just literally.
Yeah.
Welcome to. This is why technology. This is why technology can never work, can it? This is why we can never be replaced. But equally, this is why we teachers win in the end, because you know what? Despite everything, we still keep coming back.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times have we all been in a situation where the whiteboard doesn't work, this doesn't work, that doesn't work, and you have to come up with
many times.
I think I'm on plan F at the moment.
Yeah.
Next week we will do the weekly review on a chalkboard, guys.
Oh dear, this has been the show where we've tried to get rid of panelists. We succeeded with Lucy. That was on the basis of her socks, but Brent was just unputdownable. Anyway, that's all we've had time for this morning. We hope you enjoyed the show. Please let us know. It's perhaps not our best show. Thank you very much to our sponsors, John Catt Books and Reading Solutions. Thank you very much to the panelists, no matter how much of the show they were present for. That's Leanne, who's also doing the admin in the background, which was very challenging today. Brent, and in her absence, Lucy. Have a great week. We'll be back same time, same place. See you next Sunday.
Outstanding and world-class vision and world-class this.
I'm a real leadership geek, honestly. I've spent my whole career reading books and chatting to people.
I just find the whole thing and the announcement, the way it's been announced, bizarre.
If you could move away from a model where teachers are so intensely focused.